Problems don't disappear, they just change shape. People grow up thinking life has a point where everything finally settles, a moment where issues stop, pressure ends, and life becomes clean. But that moment doesn't exist. What actually happens is more subtle. One problem gets solved, and another one replaces it, not because life is unfair, but because life is continuous movement. And once you sit with that idea long enough, you start noticing something most people miss. There was never a problem-free stage, only different versions of pressure. When you're young, your problems feel small but endless. School, identity, fitting in, not knowing who you are. Later, they shift. Money, responsibility, direction, relationships, expectations. The weight changes, but the pattern stays. Most people think, if I fix this, I'll finally be free. But freedom doesn't come from absence of problems. It comes from changing what kind of problems you are willing to carry. Because every level of life has its own pressure. No pressure means no progress. No resistance means no development. Even the strongest people aren't problem-free. They are just dealing with problems that match their capacity. From the outside, it can look like certain people have easier lives. But you're only seeing the surface layer. What's visible is their stability. What's invisible is what they manage to hold together every day. A weak mind gets overwhelmed by small issues. A trained mind handles larger ones without collapsing. Not because life treated them differently, but because they adapted to heavier weight over time. And adaptation always comes through repetition. Not one big moment, not one breakthrough, but a long sequence of small confrontation with difficulty. That's the part people misunderstand. People compare their problems to others and assume unfairness, but comparison ignores context. Someone else's life isn't easier. Their problems are just less visible and differently structured. Even success doesn't remove problems, it replaces them. More decisions, more responsibility, more people relying on you, more to lose. The problems don't end, they evolve. And that evolution is important because it reveals something uncomfortable. A problem-free life is not a destination. It is a pause between two levels of pressure. Now zoom out even further. Think about what happens if life removed all problems completely. At first, it sounds peaceful, but quickly, something else appears. Stagnation. Because nothing forces movement anymore. Nothing challenges thinking, nothing demands adaptation. And without demand, there is no growth. Pressure is not just discomfort. It is a structure-building force. It shapes discipline, it builds awareness, it exposes weakness, it forces decisions. Without it, everything stays untested. It's why life never stabilizes permanently. It keeps introducing new forms of difficulty, not to punish, but to maintain motion. Even emotional struggles follow this pattern. A problem you thought would break you 10 years ago now feels manageable, not because it changed, but because you did. That shift is invisible while it happens. You don't notice strength forming. You only notice it when old pressure stops affecting you the same way. And that's when you realize something important. You are never becoming someone who escapes problems. You are becoming someone who handles different types of them. That's the real progression of life, not removal, but expansion of capacity. And this is where most people unconsciously limit themselves. They try to reduce problems instead of increasing tolerance. They chase comfort instead of strength. They aim for less difficulty instead of higher capability. But life doesn't reward avoidance. It rewards adaptation. Because problems will always exist. They are built into the structure of living. They change form, intensity, and complexity, but they never fully disappear. And once that becomes clear, your entire mindset shifts. You stop asking, when will this get easier? And you start asking, can I become someone who doesn't break under this level of difficulty? Because in the end, your life is not defined by the absence of problems. It is defined by the level of problems you can face without losing direction. And everything after that is just growth into a stronger version of that answer.